Tarik Skubal. I always say his first name wrong. He could be responsible for the end of baseball in 2027. That's the theory, right? The Dodgers broke baseball. Hold on a second. We'll get into this during the opening line. There are some decent points on either side today about what is going to happen in 2027 and who is to blame for a pending lockout that will happen when the CBA expires at the end of the year. Andrew Erickson will join us today. We're not talking just baseball. Trade deadline 6 p.m. But football, fantasy football. We'll get to that. Hall of Fame games Thursday. Got a lot to get to. We are loaded today. Welcome to Monday. This is Pushing the Odds.
It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live from the world-famous Las Vegas Strip. It's Pushing the Odds.
For guys like me, Las Vegas washes away your sins. It's like a morality car wash. Back home, they would have put me in jail for what I'm doing. But out here, they're giving me awards.
Here he is, Matt Perrault.
Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
What's up, guys? How are you? It is a loaded Monday for Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault. It's being brought to you by BetCris Arizona. We've got the trade deadline for Major League Baseball. Tarik Skubal is a Dodger. What did the Tigers get for Skubal? Does it matter? The Tigers got 3 prospects, but in all honesty, the market was the LA Dodgers and nobody else. Anyone could have beaten that price, could have beaten that package if the Dodgers were not the ones that are going to pay for Skubal in the offseason. It was a rental. For anybody else except the Dodgers, Skubal was going to be a rental. And so the Brewers and the Cubs and anyone else that had any inclination of potentially trading for Skubal, they said, you know what? He wants to be on the West Coast. He's been pretty honest about it. He's talked about it to people around him that, yeah, I'd go to LA. I'd be good with the Dodgers. And so the Dodgers traded for him, and they did not have to give up even a top 5 prospect to get the 2-time defending American League Cy Young Award winner for not a rental, but for the long term. That is what the Dodgers do now because of their money, because of the market, and their success. They can do deals that nobody else can do. Is that going to destroy baseball in 2027? Yes. Is that their fault? I don't know if that's the Dodgers' fault. We'll get to that coming up here in the opening line. Andrew Erickson from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. He'll stop by today. Let's talk about drafts. You guys who are in fantasy teams, fantasy leagues, you've got drafts coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll get into 3 players he likes that you should be targeting that probably will be available early in your draft that could have big breakout years and could help you win your league. We'll do that today. We will jump down the rabbit hole talking college football and college sports. Both the SEC and the Big Ten agreed to the congressional bill that will put some parameters, if passed, on college athletics. Will it solve it? I don't know. We'll get to the details of it coming up here today. We have a Trend Center app trend of the day to get to for Major League Baseball. There are games being played today, even though we're all talking trades as to what team is going to help itself to go ahead and try to win the American League or the National League pennants. The Boston Red Sox won't stop winning. They swept the Dodgers. Dodgers don't care, but they got swept at home by the Red Sox, who continue to be the hottest team in Major League Baseball, and they have not done anything of note yet. Yeah, they picked up a prospect from the Nationals who got hit on the wrist and fractured his wrist in his first game played, but the Red Sox need help at shortstop. Will they get it today? We'll look at that today coming up. We'll take a look at some other things bopping around in NFL. Circa Sports team of the day is the Houston Texans, but we start the show today. Oh, forgot. We do have 9 contestants available alive for our Circa Millions entry contest. I've got another clue for you guys coming up about halfway through the show. Stick around for that. I know there's only 9 of you, so we're going to go quick, but there's 9 of you still alive, and we'll get down to see what happens after today. We started off, I think, with like 89, I think somewhere in that range for people who were in the contest. We're down to 9 to see who's going to pair with me for the Circa Million entry that we're going to go ahead and sign up for at the end of the month. We are in Vegas on Thursday and Friday for Bet Bash. We're doing the show from Bet Bash, audio only version on Thursday, no video, only audio for the version of PTO coming up 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be recorded, not live, recorded from Bet Bash, and then it'll be out later in the day between Adam Bjorn and myself live. So we'll do that coming up here in a couple seconds. Yes, Ross Randall's approval. We have 9. He did get approved. Yes, I allowed it to pass. He showed me screenshots. He showed me timestamps, and I'll let it go. But we've got some more stricter regulations and rules. Those 9 people aren't going to be able to do it right before the show. They're going to have to get it in way before that if they want to be counted going forward here for the 9. See how many we're left with after today for the Circa Million contest. We start the show with Skubal to the Dodgers. It's the opening line. Opening line being brought to you by Huel. That QR code on your screen, you can take your phone out and shoot that. It'll take you right to Huel.com/PTO to get the offer. 15% off for new customers, or use the code PTO at checkout for Huel. What is Huel? It's human fuel. Huel. Huel. 40 grams of protein, up to 11 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. This is not a protein shake. This is not a supplement. This is a meal replacement. This is about controlling your nutrition. The ready-to-drink bottles give you 35 grams of protein and 7 grams of fiber. They are available in Target and in Costco. If you see that bottle, that chocolate is great. Vanilla is great. I drink this all the time for breakfast, but you can even do it for lunch or dinner at the end of the day. If you're super busy, go to Huel.com/PTO. Use the code PTO to save 15% off for new customers. So Skubal gets traded to the Dodgers. I don't really care about the return, because the return, there's 3 prospects. Maybe they turn in something, maybe they don't. Okay. It was up to the Tigers to determine whether or not they were going to get enough back. They thought they got enough back. I'm not so sure. But what it does, it sets up a lineup for the Dodgers for something we have never seen before. This is the first time in the history of baseball that reigning back-to-back winners of both the Cy Young in the American League and the MVP of a National League or any league are on the same team. We've never seen this type of firepower being concentrated with one team. It's the first time since 2004 that the reigning MVP and Cy Young happens to be on the same roster. The Dodgers now have 50 All-Star game appearances on their roster. They have 6 seasons for MVPs. They have 4 Cy Youngs, and they have 19 Silver Slugger awards on their roster. This is the greatest on-paper baseball team that we have ever seen. And you might go, Matt, how in the world did the Dodgers do this? How are they able to create a roster with this much firepower? These guys all are top of the line. They all want to make big money. They all want to get paid big time. Well, how did they do it? Deferred money. The Dodgers are deferring $1.1 billion. $1.1 billion. They're paying Shohei until 2043. They're paying Mookie Betts until 2044. They're paying Blake Snell until 2046. I mean, Skubal is going to sign a monster contract, and we'll see what Skubal gets paid for until. But we're talking about
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
It's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. You know, we've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
They're paying Shohei until 2043. They're paying Mookie Betts until 2044. They're paying Blake Snell until 2046. I mean, Skubal is going to sign a monster contract, and we'll see what Skubal gets paid for until. But we're talking about, if you don't know the date, it's 2026 at the moment. And we're talking about 2040 and beyond for this. Skubal going to the Dodgers, in my opinion, it's an unfortunate thing for the sport, but I don't hate the Dodgers, but I am going to acknowledge that the Dodgers, this is the tipping point. This is the Dodgers tipping point, and this just killed baseball in 2027. The difference between this story and past stories is that I think people are in support of baseball going away to get a salary cap. And I am not somebody who puts on a tinfoil cap to talk conspiracy theory all that often, but I think there is something to the idea that the Dodgers getting Skubal was allowed by owners and was cheered upon by owners because they will use this as the linchpin. They'll use this as the focal point and say, this is what we have to stop. I think if you are a real baseball fan, I don't think you want to stop the Dodgers from being competitive and being well run and using all the different tools in their disposal to be the best franchise in baseball. Because right now the Dodgers are the best franchise in baseball. There's no debate about it. I think when the Yankees were running through the American League and when the Yankees were doing all the things that they were doing, I don't think there's a lot that people were able to wrap their arms around the way that they can this. A salary cap has been talked about forever in Major League Baseball. Fans of the, not to pick on the Midwest, but like Cleveland and Kansas City and Minnesota, like those fans have always wanted a salary cap, right? But I think the bigger deal is getting rid of this. I think this is what fans really would like to see out of baseball. This deferred payment structure that the Dodgers have taken advantage of, that there needs to be some reeling in on teams that are going to do this. Because not everybody can do this, right? The Dodgers know that they are going to be competitive in a major market, making millions and millions, billions of dollars from now until whenever we all leave this planet, right? Until the Dodgers, who knows, whenever human existence stops, the Dodgers are going to be able to make a lot of money, right? So they can defer all their money. They're good with it. Well, that's a problem for the rest of baseball. So I think most fans would love to see that being deferred. But the Dodgers still have to win the game, right? They almost last year got beat in the postseason. Now they've added Skubal, okay? I don't think Shohei's going to pitch much the rest of the year, if at all. He's going to be a batter, which is a damn good batter. But the Red Sox just showed you go in there, you can beat the Dodgers. Red Sox just did it in 3 games in LA. So just because on paper they're the best team and they're historic doesn't mean that the Dodgers are going to win. We've seen teams go on runs before, okay? The Yankees in recent memory have gone on runs where they've won multiple World Series in a row, right? Back then, people were clamoring and calling for a salary cap, some type of control. Didn't happen. Instead, we got 16 champions between 2000 and 2026. The players are going to say, we're never going to accept this. And this will be the owner's refrain over and over again. We have to make a more competitive game. To be successful, the game must be more competitive. It can't be just one-sided. I think most people would agree with that. And the trading for Skubal, I think, finally flipped it over. I do think that people are going to hate the Dodgers more now than ever before. Giant fans, Padre fans, some National League fans have always hated the Dodgers. But the American League people don't really care because they don't see the Dodgers. They don't hear about the Dodgers. We're all asleep here in New England. We don't watch them. You hear about Skubal. You hear about the dominant, what this guy could do on paper, that we've never seen a rotation like this ever before. I mean, the ERAs alone of the starting pitchers are insane. You still have to win the games. But I feel like East Coast people are finally sick to death of this, going, wait, hold on. You have Ohtani, you have Blake Snell, you're adding Skubal, you've got Glass now, you're going to bring back different pitchers that have been injured. Like, what's going on? Huh? You have the best OPS in baseball. You have a lineup that 1 through 9 is impossible to stop, and you're adding a 2-time Cy Young Award winner? How is this possible? So I think this is the breaking point for most fans, and they're furious about it. Does it mean the Dodgers win it all? Not necessarily. I mean, there's been other small deals. The Cubs landed Kevin Gausman. The Rays got Freddie Peralta. There's trades going on right now. If a big one comes down, I'll need you guys in the brigade. Go ahead in the chat and tell me. We'll do some breaking news, and we'll talk about it. But did the Dodgers kill baseball? That's everyone's wondering, right? Well, I think the answer to that is yes. But are they to blame for it? No. I mean, this has been the Dodgers just operating their franchise better than anybody else. So it's kind of like I'm on both sides, I guess you could say, which is a bad place to be. I know. I understand that owners want a salary cap, and the Dodgers getting Skubal creates an environment in which the fans agree we need a salary cap. Thus, the owners are going to feel emboldened to lock out the players, and we don't have baseball in 2027. But at the same point, I look at the Dodgers and their farm system. I look at the Dodgers and their culture. I look at the Dodgers and their success, and that's all on the field. Like, that's all what they're doing to win baseball games. They're just better. They're better than everybody else. So that's the problem. Is the system broken? Yes. Are the Dodgers to blame for that, though? No. That's the problem. I think people are getting twisted here a little bit with, all this Dodger hatred. I get the hatred. I hate LA too. But it's not the Dodgers' fault that they are better at this system, in this system, than anyone else. It's kind of like the Patriots, okay? The Patriots were better than anyone else in the system that the NFL had put in place, and thus you had the jealousy and all the cheating allegations and all our bullshit that came out of the Patriots' 20-year run. You weren't supposed to be able to do what the Patriots did in the NFL's system. You aren't supposed to be able to do this if you're the Dodgers in the current Major League Baseball system, because no one has the ability to defer $1.1 billion. Only the Dodgers seem to be willing to defer $1.1 billion. So, and look, the Red Sox are big money. The Yankees are big money. The Cubs are big money. No one's doing this but the Dodgers. Are they to blame for that? No, they're just better run. I'm in New England. Let's bring him on. One Mr. Andrew Erickson, Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, joining us here. We're switching gears. Let's talk football. How are you, my friend?
I am doing excellent, Matt Perrault. So happy that you reached out to get me on the show. Look, the calendar is August. You're talking about this baseball thing. I'm like, dude, I'm locked in. When are the Eagles visiting the Patriots for joint practices? I've already circled it on my calendar because I want to see AJ Brown against these Eagles defensive backs who would like to be very, very chippy because we're not going to see any of that in the preseason game. So I am super excited to talk fantasy here on the show with you, man.
It's wild too because the Hall of Fame game is on Thursday. And I think as you hit August, yes, baseball is on people's brains, but I think the collective will tell you that it's football season and people's attention is starting to gravitate towards their own fantasy football teams, their own football team as to what it's going to look like. What is life like for you right now, though? Because I don't think people realize how much research and how much work you have to do right now. Because for fantasy pros, this is go time, right? This is your most important period.
Some might even say, and to quote our great leader, Andrew Sears, crunch time for us here in the Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros streets with the NFL season coming up. So yeah, it's crazy. Every single day it's updating rankings, adjusting for things because of injuries. We're already having guys get hurt. Ricky Pearsall obviously was the big news last week. So that has a ripple effect of how you now address the 49ers. Do you have to move Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel? Now he's thrown into the mix. So every single day it's monitoring these training camp reports, figuring out these injuries. So we are locked in and you got to be ready to go. So I'm amped.
What do you make? Let me ask you this way. In terms of roster building for teams, for people, for fantasy football teams, how much do you recommend people to be like deep in the weeds? Or do you think it could be something where, hey, 2 or 3 days before your draft, you just start to compile some information? How have you seen success over the years? Is it the people that go deep and today they're drafted like on August 24th and they're already 4 books in? Or is it the guy that shows up with 2 or 3 days worth of prep work, comes in and does well?
Well, I think you can have success in both ways. I think that from speaking from myself, I'm in the weeds. I mean, I've been drafting teams since basically like March, before the NFL draft even kicked off. So I think that that's just something that because I enjoy this stuff so much, like this is a passion for me. And I'm just so happy that it is also my full-time job. But with the tools that we have at Fantasy Pros, you can also be in that other bucket where you just kind of show up, you have the expert consensus rankings, you have the draft tools, and you should be good to go. Now, I do think that a little bit of prep beforehand, even if it's like a day or two before, just running through some simulations with our draft wizard, I think it's just the best way to get an edge because you're just going to find out where players will be available when you pick, especially if you know, I'm picking in my snake draft. I'm the 11th overall pick. Run through some simulations, just kind of get familiar with the names that will most likely be on the board by the time you pick. Kind of write those down, jot those down. And again, we have cheat sheets that you can follow my rankings, Fitz, Debro, everyone over at Fantasy Pros. So again, if you don't want to put in the work, we do it for you. And using the tools makes it really easy. I know we have a free trial going on right now. So go check it out, fantasypros.com/free trial.
I'm not trying to shill for our company, but you guys know I work for both companies. I work for Pushing the Odds and I also work for Betting Pros. But Fantasy Pros, you guys do an incredible job. Debro's going to be on the show a lot this year as well. I am curious. I'm not trying to bash anybody else for their own, but I've seen people be very negative towards other people's rankings, like the free site rankings. How different is it when you guys go behind the paywall on Fantasy Pros and you start using those tools? How much different is the information that you guys make available on Fantasy Pros versus the free stuff that's available on the internet?
So a lot of it goes to the full expert consensus rankings, which are behind the premium subscription to Fantasy Pros, where you're not just getting my rankings or Fitz's or Debro's, it's across the industry. Anyone that has submitted their rankings through the expert platform, which is really good for analysts. Again, how I kind of keep track of everything. There are some rankers, if you're not using the analyst tools, that are doing this in like Google Sheets. And I cannot imagine how annoying that must be to try to like drag and drop all these players, copying, pasting when you have this great expert platform tool. So it makes things like, okay, Ricky Pearsall is out. We get a red Q tag for him saying, okay, he's going to be out. We got to move Deebo Samuel up the ranks. How do we affect Brock Purdy? So that's one of the big advantages, I think. Do you get access to all those types of rankings along with other premium things? And I think too, with the draft wizard tool specifically, you can then sync up multiple and more leagues. So if you are in a situation where you're playing like 10, 12, 15 fantasy leagues, like you need this premium subscription because like that's really what's going to help separate you because yes, you can free your one league for free on the mock draft simulator. And that's definitely the first step. But if you really want to dive in deeper, getting all the information, especially with like draft intel, where you can get information about your league mates and their draft history. And, oh, this guy always drafts a Patriot 2 rounds ahead of ADP. Go figure. It's a New England draft. So again, I was using the mock draft tool before I was even associated with Fantasy Pros in any way, shape, or form. I remember I would be doing this in my college dorm, trying to be like, all right, I can get Keenan Allen in round 3, and then another name, Jeremy Hill, former running back for the Bengals.
Wow.
Like, I can get him in round 2 as a sophomore. He was obviously a bust, but it's a great tool, and there's no better way to get prepped for your specific draft because it also syncs your league settings. So PPR, half PPR, keepers, it's all done for you at a click of a button.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, you know, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
So when you go to spring training, you work on things like bunting, you work on things like what bases to cover, you work on things like, you know, hitting the right cutoff man, right? So what are just the basic blocking and tackling strategic things that everyone playing fantasy needs to know before their draft?
Value-based drafting, I think, is probably the most important thing to remember when you're going into your draft, and to not react to gut feel or runs on certain positions. You're trying to extract as much value as you can. So that's where the rankings come into play, where there may be a guy falling like a stone because of XYZ reason, but if he's the top guy on the consensus board, then that's probably going to be a good pick when you look back on it. You know, some of the best picks I've made were not necessarily always players that I was going out of my way to try and acquire. It was, well, everybody else hates this guy, and right now he's a screaming value. You know, one of the greatest cases of this a couple of years ago was Josh Jacobs. And he played in the Hall of Fame game, and nobody wanted him. Everyone was like, this guy is dead on arrival. Nobody wants Josh Jacobs. He's fallen like round 7, round 8, round 9. And eventually it was just like, look, I don't love this player, but you just got to take him at this point. And he had an absolute monster season. Led the NFL in rushing yards that particular year under Josh McDaniels. So always take value where you can see it. I also, try to follow a certain strategy. You can go check out my perfect draft article over on Fantasy Pros, but going late round quarterback, I think, makes a lot of sense this year. Just the quarterback position is very, very deep. We're going to talk about one of those guys that I really like in the later rounds. And honestly, trying to get your bell cow running back early on. Like we've seen the running backs really bounce back in the last couple of years. Again, even with teams using more than one, we're still seeing the bell cow running backs really thrive, especially as pass catchers out of the backfield. So I find myself getting really queasy if I do a draft and don't have a running back after my first 2 picks. And I know that Fitz and we were drafting in the Kings Classic last weekend in Canton, Ohio. And our start, we were picking at the end of the 12-team draft. We went running back. And then we didn't touch running back for a long time. He's like, nope, we got a running back set. And you'll love the receivers that go in those middle rounds. So that's kind of some overarching strategy I'm looking at for 2026 drafts.
All right, here are 3 players. Let's talk about them that you, if you're in fantasy, that Andrew likes to be targeting for this coming season. Let's start with Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens, who had 86 catches last year, 5 touchdowns, 1,200 yards receiving. This is a new head coach in Baltimore, but you still have obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Lamar Jackson. What do we think about Zay Flowers? Why are you liking him this year?
I think this is the year he finally blows up. And to make a great comparison, remember when Happy learned how to putt? Well, Zay Flowers is going to learn how to score touchdowns finally this year. That's my prediction here for him. You have Declan Doyle coming in as the new offensive coordinator. Todd Monken is no longer calling the plays here for the Baltimore Ravens. And I just think that invites the possibilities of, let's get our best player on offense the ball more in the red zone. Because if you actually look at last year, the Ravens were not effective in the red zone. They were 27th in red zone scoring. That was just one of the issues that they ran into last year where things got derailed. Lamar Jackson was banged up. But when Lamar was healthy last year, Flowers was hitting nearly 13 points per game in the 13 games he played. He was over 15 points per game in full PPR. I mean, just look at the numbers. He was the only receiver last year to hit at least 1,200 receiving yards and not score at least 8 touchdowns. Right. Wow. So eventually, the talent is so clearly there with him. He's a player that has improved every single season, former first-round pick, entering his 4th year of his NFL career attached to Lamar Jackson. We did see a bit of a touchdown scoring binge over the last part of the 2025 season. He scored 5 touchdowns over the last 4 games. And I think the team's going to remember that and think, man, Zay Flowers is pretty good. Maybe we should get this guy more involved around the red zone. The consistency and floor is there, which is why I love him so much in fantasy, because let's say I'm wrong here and he doesn't have this. And he just, again, it's another 5 touchdown season. Well, he was a top 7 wide receiver last year with just 5 touchdowns. So I think you're getting him at his absolute floor. He's going well outside the top 12 wide receivers, but a ceiling because of the talent. Again, yards per route run last year, one of the more predicted metrics at receiver, 4th last year behind only Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Luther Burden. Those 2 other guys, those guys are top 5 locked and loaded picks. When it comes to target share, how much is he commanding in this offense? Well, he had a 28% target share. That was 5th in the NFL. And when I just look at the Ravens receiving room, it's Mark Andrews, who I think is totally cooked at this point, and a bunch of rookies, and Rashad Bateman, who can never stay healthy. So Zay Flowers is I think he's just the perfect player to want to be betting on to take another step forward. And I'm always making the comparison to Antonio Brown in his 4th season. That's who I comped Zay Flowers to coming out of Boston College. And AB just went totally nuclear in the fantasy streets in his 4th season. So I'm predicting something very similar for Flowers.
All right. I love this because I'm with you. I got a prop bet I'm going to give you in a second. I'm questionable. I want to question you about it. But Trevor Lawrence, quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, with arguably the greatest receiver group in the NFL, over 4,000 yards passing last year, 29 touchdowns. It's year 2 in Liam Cohen's offense. In year 1, the first half of the year was pedestrian. The second half of the year was an absolute, blast off for him in terms of stats and fantasy and wins and everything else. I'm high on Trevor Lawrence. You are too. Why?
From week 5 onward, he outscored every other player in fantasy. Every single one at 23 points per game. We saw him take off in this Liam Cohen offense, despite the fact that there was a rotating carousel of wide receivers. Travis Hunter was there, and then he was out. And then they put Parker Washington in it, and Brian Thomas Jr. He was playing through injuries. Bretton Strange, he missed time with injuries. But now the cupboard is stacked with one of the deepest receiver rooms, like you kind of alluded to, where maybe there is no alpha, but hey, you know who's pretty good without an alpha for a really long time? Tom Brady, right? Like, he didn't force feed one particular guy, but he made it work. And that's really what Trevor Lawrence has done for the majority of his career. Some of the guys he's hit big with, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, like tight ends working over the middle of the field. And I think now entering his 2nd season, I get that the Bears are the all-pro hype team. I think the Jaguars deserve more credit because I think that their ceiling can be high, if not higher than the Chicago Bears. And with Trevor Lawrence, look, Liam Cohen, we saw 2 years ago with Baker Mayfield. He threw for over 40 touchdowns in this offense. And I also have a lot of betting stuff with Trevor Lawrence as well. I love him as an MVP dark horse candidate because when you look at Trevor Lawrence, he's only 27 years old. And that is actually the average age of MVP quarterbacks since Tom Brady won his first MVP at age 30. So I get, it feels like the narrative has been written about Trevor Lawrence. He's never really lived up to the number 1 overall pick, but it's like, I don't think his story's been written fully yet. And I think what we saw last year, just a glimpse of what the ceiling can be in this offense. So super high on Trevor Lawrence in fantasy and betting. Yeah.
37.74.5 is the over I played for Trevor Lawrence. I'm really surprised at this number, given the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington, Travis Hunter will be a nice little gadget guy, and Jacoby Myers is a steady veteran. I mean, those are 4 very good receiving options. I was surprised at how low this number was for Trevor Lawrence. I'm assuming you like the over as well.
Yes, 100%. I think one of the points, too, that you listed off there was we have question marks about the running back room. I like Bayshall Tootin a lot, but there is a chance that he does not assert himself as a bell cow type of running back. He was a former day 3 pick. I think Chris Rodriguez is just a jag. So if this team can't establish a really effective ground game, well, what does that mean for Trevor Lawrence? It's going to be more dropping back to throw. I expect him to call his name a lot in the red zone, similar to what we've seen with Josh Allen. And defensively, the Jaguars last year were one of the biggest pass funnel defenses, right? So they were selling out to stop the run, and they were welcoming pass attempts. So that to me suggests more shootout game scripts, which means more passing yards for Trevor Lawrence. So I love this bet, Matt.
What round are you recommending Trevor Lawrence? When you said late quarterback, so we talking like 6th, 7th, 8th round for Trevor Lawrence? Are you saying taking him earlier? Should he be QB1? Should he be the first quarterback off the board?
Not the first quarterback off the board, because I still take my boy Drake May over Trevor Lawrence. But when you're considering the price, Trevor Lawrence is more likely to be available in rounds 8, 9, even 10. There are just the quarterback position this year in particular just feels so deep, where you can get guys with your last pick, you could probably draft someone like Jared Goff and be like, all right, well, I'll just roll with a guy who basically doesn't play outside until week 18 of this season and just throws for 4,000 yards every year, 30 touchdowns, and I'll be good to go. So I do think I still want Trevor Lawrence, though, in that I'm willing to pay up a little bit for him, but still a round 9 pick. Your roster is going to be mostly filled up by that point anyway. So it's going to be great value for a player that I do think at least will be in that conversation of QB1. And again, Josh Allen, when you compare the prices, I mean, he's someone that's going to go in round 3. And that's just not a bet that I want to make when you can get a player like Lawrence, who I think maybe has a similar ceiling case so many rounds later.
And then finally, a running back that you were liking, Rachaad White from the Tampa Bay Bucks, with the uncertainty with Baker Mayfield as to whether or not he's going to be happy this year. He's not going to be. No Mike Evans. I get this, that the Bucks might be looking to lean more heavily on the running game here. Why do you like White in Tampa to have a breakout season?
So, Matt, this is why you need to make sure that you're in the streets with
good luck to you. Time for the Circa Sports Team of the Day, being brought to you by Circa Sports, Circa Survivor, and Circa Million. It's a $1,000 entry. Grandissimo is a $100,000 entry. It's a $4 million grand prize guaranteed for Grandissimo. Circa Million's a $1 million first place prize, plus all the other contests, the booby prizes in the quarter contests. Circa Million and Circa Survivor are both going to be awesome this year. Survivor is going to go over 20 million. It's a guaranteed of 20 million. We're already going to go over that. We're pacing way ahead of schedule for this. If we go over either one, the money goes right back into the prize pool. No rake is ever taken. You must be in Vegas when you sign up, but you can hire a proxy if you would like. We got one of those for you. Circasports.com for more information. Our Circa Sports Team of the Day, the Houston Texans, who are about 20-1 to win it all. You guys know I'm not high on the Texans by any means. Their win total is set at 9.5. I wouldn't recommend betting the under, but CJ Stroud is a player that I'm just not really comfortable backing. They have an unbelievable defense. They added a piece to their defense. We'll get to it during the Pro Football Story of the Day in a second. The schedule sets up pretty well for them, although the first two games are brutal. But they're at home, Buffalo and Cincinnati. Both winnable, but they can lose both those games as well. First road game is to Indianapolis. You play Dallas in week number 4. You don't go on the road to a team that you should win against until week number 5 against Tennessee. And then you're going overseas to play Jacksonville in a game that I cannot believe is being sent to London. I hate that game being sent to London, but it is. Then you have the Giants at home, should be a W, and then the bye week. A realistic schedule, a realistic record with that schedule for the Texans, in my mind, would be 4 wins. I mean, 4-3 is not awful. 5-2 is great. If you're 5-2 heading to the bye week, awesome. But if you get off to an 0-2 start, which is possible, and then you're at Indianapolis, which is not going to be an easy place to play. You're home for Dallas, a game you can definitely lose. You're at Tennessee, which is a divisional game on the road, and you're going to London to play the Jaguars. You know, you're coming back, maybe you have 2 wins at the bye week, and you're 2-5 heading to the bye week. So, the path there is not easy for the Houston Texans, and that's why they're 20-1. The division is much better, and you're going to get into your divisional games a ton as you hit the second half of the year. You open up the second half of your schedule at the Chargers and at the Browns. Now, the Browns should be a W, but you play the Colts at home and the Ravens at home. Then you play Pittsburgh and Washington on the road. After the bye week, 4 of their first 6 games are on the road, and 6 of their first 9 games after the bye are on the road. That's a very difficult schedule for a warm weather team to have to go to Philadelphia, to Pittsburgh, to Washington, and to Green Bay in December and January. That is not good for the Texans. Home for the Titans at the end of the season, but I that's what would really worry me big time if I am looking at this as an over bet on the Texans. I don't like the second half of that schedule. That worries me a lot. And maybe you think that CJ Stroud is your guy. I'm just not one of them. I told you I bet the under on his passing yardage, 36.50 for his passing yardage. I just don't think without Tank Dell being healthy, maybe never be the player he once was after the broken leg. And I know Nico Collins is tremendous. I'm just not a fan. They're going to run the ball with David Montgomery. I get it. That's why they traded for him. But that defense is awesome. But the offense still has to score. And the offense, the defense can't be expected to score every week. And it feels like that's how the Texans play, that the defense is going to be needed to either set up easy touchdowns, turn the football over, create advantageous situations for CJ Stroud. Any type of adversity for CJ Stroud in the postseason, things went really, really poorly for him. Yeah, I don't know. 8-9, 9 wins might be the ceiling for the Texans with that schedule and who's playing quarterback. And if that happens, I think CJ Stroud's probably not the guy for this team. Like, it is a big show me year for a lot of people, including me, about where the Texans are. So that takes us to our pro football story of the day, being brought to you by our friends at VegasFootballProxy.com. Clowney is back. Jadeveon Clowney has signed to go to the Houston Texans. He called it a really easy decision, who arrived in 2014 as the number 1 overall pick out of South Carolina, but left in 2019 and has since played for 6 different teams, re-signing with Houston, telling the Houston Chronicle it wasn't about the money. I just felt like they got a good team and I can contribute. It was really an easy decision. Well, I think from a Houston Texan perspective, yeah, talking about a team with some of the best defensive linemen and best linebackers in all of football, and now you add Clowney to do basically one thing. It's going to be a third down specialist. I mean, that's going to be the entire thing, just to rush the quarterback. That's it. It's a good addition. It's a good addition to that defense. It makes them even deeper. It makes them better. But again, I don't care how much. I mean, this defense is still 1, 2, or 3 in the NFL, with or without Clowney. It's 1, 2, or 3. It's the offense that's the problem. It's the quarterback that's the problem for the Texans. So to me, I don't care who you add on the defense side of the football. If you're Houston, like, keep on adding more and more players. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Defense is really good. It's really deep. Can you score? Can you stop turning the ball over? Can your quarterback play at an elite level? Those questions still are unanswered, even with Clowney being signed by the Texans. So I mean, I get Houston's excited to have him back. But look, it doesn't change my opinion of Houston just because they wound up getting him. If you guys need a proxy, the official proxy service for all of the football handicapping contests in Las Vegas is VegasFootballProxy.com. You're going to go to the website, make a reservation. Tom and his great staff will take care of you for Circa Million, Circa Survivor, the Grandissimo, or any of the contests for the Westgate as well. They will explain the procedure. They will explain how to submit your picks each and every week. But remember, you must be in Vegas one time for at least an hour to sign up at either the Westgate or Circa to get in. You could be in Reno too, I guess, as well. So, but Tom would have to meet you up there, and a whole different conversation about how to meet Tom in Reno, but he's got people everywhere. So if you got to go to Reno, maybe he'll figure out a way to get to Reno for you. But Vegas, he's there every darn day. Circa Million, Survivor, Grandissimo, and all the Westgate contests. You're going to log on to VegasFootballProxy.com. The official proxy service of Pushing the Odds is VegasFootballProxy.com. Okay, let's pivot here. Let's switch gears. Let's talk college sports for a second. The Big Ten and the SEC both agreed to the bill that will reshape college sports if it does get passed. Let's jump down the rabbit hole and take a look at what this bill does.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. You know, we've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
This is an interesting look at the way that politicians feel they can get involved to save college sports. This is the Protect College Sports Act. The Big Ten and the SEC were not really supportive of it. They looked like they wanted to get away from it, but politicians can strong arm people in sports, and it looks like it worked. There was a pretty quick about face in the 11th hour that sent this landmark legislation to the Senate floor for a vote coming up next week. What does this thing do? Okay, here's the bill. It looks a lot like the old rules, but it's under the new current environment of NIL. Schools could spend about $49 million on athletes, a $29.3 million base cap plus a retention pool to keep their players. So they can go out and spend $21 million on new players, and they can pay their current players $22.5 million, plus $5 million for women's sports and non-revenue sports. That's a 129% increase to what is currently being spent at the moment. 2, the bill includes deals tied to schools and associated partners like sponsors, apparel brands, and multimedia right groups to prevent cap circumvention. This is the problem. How in the world do you police this? Because this looks a lot like the old stuff, right? Under the table bill, under the table payments will be happening like crazy from people taking things off the table, off the record, and not being tracked or reported. Number 3, transfers and eligibility would give the NCAA and the conferences a limited antitrust exemption, restore the one-time transfer exemption, which is awesome. If you transfer more than once, you got to sit. Standardize 5-year eligibility. I like that. And ban pros from returning to college. I like that as well. And then number 4, for conference expansion, power conferences could only have 19 schools. Interesting, because 20 is what most people think we're going to go to. Teams switching power leagues would have to operate independently for 5 years. So we would basically stop the current run on expansion. Does this fix college sports? No. But it's a start. I mean, it's something. It's the parameters. It gives us a framework to at least get us into the right frame of mind as to how do we fix quote unquote college sports. I don't love that politicians are involved, but it felt like college sports needed somebody to pay attention. They weren't going to do a czar. So you needed somebody to step in and say, hey, these are state-run institutions. These are people who have state-run, you're taking state funds, federal funds. You guys are still academic institutions, okay? You're tied to these universities. These universities need money from the government to do a variety of things. So if you keep on playing this game, you guys are not going to be able to do anything that we want you to do. And this is the problem. How do you police it? They'll self-report, right? That's the problem. It feels like, okay, we're all on board that we got to fix this, right? We're all on board that we're trying to create a new environment, a different environment. But it is extraordinarily frustrating to think that schools are going to abide by this and no one's going to cheat. You essentially, this is the Big Ten's argument, right? Like, why has the Big Ten been so dominant? Because the SEC can't cheat anymore. And so for a long time, the SEC could pay their players, and the Big Ten people didn't pay them as much. So players went to SEC schools. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's the line. And thus that the players can be paid across the board. Really, this wild, wild west. There is no parameter. There's no cap on what you can spend on a player. So the Big Ten folks can pay and pay and pay, just like the SEC can pay and pay and pay. And look what happened. The Big Ten won back-to-back championships. I don't know. If the SEC goes back to domination again, if this passes, it should, and goes into effect. If the SEC all of a sudden rears back, maybe there was something to that. And maybe the SEC is not going to be beholden to this. I just don't think schools can be trusted not to break the rules in order to win. The genie is already out of the, already out. I'm not sure how you come back, and I'm not sure how you fix this. I'm just not so. I mean, to me, I think most of this stuff is good. I just don't know how you do number 2. How do you fix number 2? I don't know. I don't understand how you fix that. Deals with partners and sponsors and apparel groups and multimedia right groups. I mean, if I'm someone who operates a large company in Florida and I want to pay, college players, I don't know. I feel like it's very difficult to police that. So I think in theory, it looks like it's better than nothing, but I'm not sure it changes or fixes college sports. I'm not sure it protects college sports the way they think it's going to. I hope it does. I hope that there's some real teeth, that if you get caught cheating, there's a real significant penalty for it. I haven't seen that yet as to what happens if you don't follow the rules. That would need to be established. And then who is investigating and who is implementing?